Hey, what's up guys? Hope you are doing well. Today we'll create this currency converter app with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. The application allows us to enter an amount for the currency we want and get the corresponding values for other currencies. So for example, with $25 today, 14th of February 2019 that is, and by the way, we get the data from the exchange rates API provided by the European Central Bank. So with $25, we can buy approximately 22 euros, 19.5 pounds, and 2,776 yen. Also notice that the exchange rate relative to 1 unit of the base currency is displayed. In order to change the base currency, all we have to do is enter an amount for the new base currency. So now euro is set as the new base currency, and also notice the exchange rate now is relative to the new base currency. And of course we can remove and add currencies. And that's all I think. I hope you guys will enjoy the creation process and get some value out of it. So without further ado, let's go! Okay, in order to avoid making one huge video, I decided to break the project into two parts. In this first part, we'll go through the HTML and CSS, and in the second part, we'll move on to JavaScript. So, starting with an empty project, let's create our files, and notice by the way that I'm using the Visual Studio Code editor. First file will be index.html, style.css, and main.js. Everything will be in the same folder, which I named currency converter. In the index.html file, I type exclamation mark, says Emmet abbreviation, hit tab or enter, and we get some HTML5 boilerplate code to begin with. Title will be currency converter. And sooner or later we'll need to include the external files to our document, so let's do this right now. Style sheet will be included in the head, and the JavaScript file in the body right above the closing body tag. So we can now proceed to adding the actual content. Everything will be contained within a container div. First element will be the header div, only containing an h1 heading with the title. Next comes the date div, containing the date. Let's just hard code it for now. We should also include a list containing the currently displayed currencies. Let's leave it empty for now, and also a list containing all currencies. This list will be displayed when we click the Add Currency button, so let's also create this button here. Okay, let's save and see what we've created up to this point. I'm using the live server VS Code extension to open the project. Nice, and let's add some styling before returning to add list items to our lists. For starters, let's remove the default padding and margin for all elements. And let's also set the box sizing property to border box instead of the default content box. Next, let's set the background color and color for the body. Background color will be this color and color white. Nice. And let's also set font family to Montserrat. In order to be able to use this font, we should first import it. Here we are. Nice. Container will have a fixed width of 500 pixels and margin 20 pixels top and bottom, and auto left and right in order to place it to the center horizontally. The header div will have this background color, text align center. The h1 within the header div will have font size 2.25 rem. The difference between rem, and em is that while em is relative to the font size of its direct or nearest parent, rem is only relative to the root font size. You can think of it as a reset. By changing the root font size, everything else changes accordingly. And let's explicitly define the root font size. (16 pixels), although this is the default anyways. Okay, and let's add some padding here. 1.75 rem. And now for the date div, background color, text align right, font size 0.75 rem, and padding 0.75 rem top, 2 rem right, 0.75 rem bottom, and 0 left. Now the currencies list is currently empty. However, let's just give it some height in order to get an idea on how the final result will look like. Let's set height to 500 pixels. And let's also set background color. And now let's style the Add Currency button. Styling here is quite trivial, so I will just paste it. Okay, now that we visually have a rough idea on how the final result will be, let's move back to HTML and define the markup for the first displayed currency list item. So we have a list item with the currency class and ID. This will be the currency ID USD. List item will contain an image element with the flag class. This is the URL for the US flag image. And let's also create the info div, which will contain a paragraph with the class input and a paragraph with the class currency name and a paragraph with the class base currency rate. Input paragraph will contain a span element with the currency symbol class, followed by an input element. In here goes the HTML code for the currency symbol character, in this case the $sign. And let's also add a placeholder value for the input. The text is the default type, so this is not necessary. The currency name paragraph will contain the currency abbreviation followed by the full name, and the base currency rate paragraph will actually contain the exchange rate relative to the base currency. So if, for example, base currency was euro, then we would have that 1 euro equals to, let's say, 1.12 US dollars. If base currency was US dollar, then we would have that 1 US dollar equals to, you guessed it, 1 US dollar. Would be cool if, for example, we could exchange 1 US dollar for 2 US dollars, but doesn't sound very sustainable, does it? Okay, and finally, let's add the close span, which will allow us to remove the currency from the list of displayed currencies. Nice. Now back to CSS to style the currencies list item. Let's start by setting the background color to this color. Okay, let's add some padding to the currencies list. 0 padding to the top, 1.5 rem right and left, and 1 rem to the bottom. Let's add some border radius to smoothen the corners. 5 pixels. Okay, and let's set list style to none. Cool, and now some padding. Okay, now before proceeding, let's add one more currency list item. Okay, obviously we need some margin to separate list items. So margin bottom 1 rem. This margin is not needed for the last list item, so let's remove it. In order to distinguish the base currency, we'll give it a different background color. So let's set, for example, US dollar as the base currency. And let's set the background color for the base currency to this color. And now the flags, let's first define the dimensions. Width 60 pixels and height 40 pixels. So we keep a 3:2 aspect ratio. From what I've noticed, most of the flags from our source indeed have this aspect ratio, others don't, so they might look a bit distorted, but it is what it is. And let's also add a border, 1 pixel, solid and white. Now for the info, we want it displayed in the same line as the flag. So let's set the display property to inline block. Okay, and let's change the alignment of the flag image. Vertical align top. For the input line, we have the span and the input. Since not all symbols have the same length, let's fix the width in order to achieve a better vertical alignment. So display inline block in order to be able to set the width. Width for rem. Text align center. And now let's style the input element. I will just paste this part since there is nothing new here. In order to make this fit into one line, let's set the width for the info div to 78%. And by the way, it's 78% of its parent element. And how did I end up with 78? Well, by trial and error. If I tried, for example, 85, then it still wouldn't fit. If I tried 80, it works, but I would prefer some more space here because the close button will be placed here, so 78. And by the way, the percentage of input elements width doesn't have to be the same as this percentage. This is just a coincidence. If, for example, this was 100%, then it would be 100% of its parent element's width. So it would be 100% of the 78%. So 78, why not? Now, again, some trivial styling for currency name and base currency rate. Just setting font size, font weight, and margin. Notice that in both cases we set margin left to 4 rem in order to align it to the input element. Recall that the currency symbol span has width 4 rem. And finally, in order to place the close element to the top right corner of the currency list item, let's first set the position property for list item to relative. And for the close element, let's set the position property to absolute, top 0, right 0. Let's save. Indeed, now it's placed to the top right corner. And let's also add some padding, 0 to top and bottom and 0.5 rem left and right. And let's also increase font size 1.5 rem. Nice. Let's change the color to 6666 and the cursor to pointer. And let's also make it a bit more visible on hover by changing the color to white. Now, regarding the height of the currencies list, one approach would be to just let it fluctuate according to the list items. Another approach would be to maybe set a minimum height and let it fluctuate beyond that minimum height. I would suggest to define the height to be equal to the viewport height, subtracting the top and bottom margin and the height of the header, the date, and the button elements. To be honest, at first I started implementing this in JavaScript, but it started getting really complicated and I thought it can't be, there must be some other way. And then I recalled this calc function, which allows us to do calculations in CSS. So height will be 100 viewport height minus the top and bottom margin, 20 pixels, plus 20 pixels, so it's minus 40 pixels, minus the header height, and let's use the DevTools, get the height, it's 100 pixels, minus the date height, which is 39, and let's say 40 pixels, minus the button height, which is 57, let's say 58 pixels. Much better. Now let's add some more list items to see what happens when the content extends beyond the currencies list area. Not exactly what we wanted, and this happens because the default value for overflow content is visible. All we have to do to fix this is set the overflow y value to auto. Very nice. Now I would prefer it if scroll bar was a bit darker and thinner. Styling the scroll bar can be quite tricky and I don't think it works for most browsers. However, let's just include the scroll bar styling here, and if it works, that's nice. If it doesn't work, it's still okay. It's just a detail anyway. Okay, now let's add content to the add currency list. So we have a list item containing the flag image and a span element containing the currency name. The currency abbreviation followed by the full name. And let's also add a data attribute specifying the currency name. So let's name the data attribute currency equals and this specific currency is US dollar. Okay, and let's add a few more list items and see how it looks. As expected, the add currency list comes after the currencies list and before the add currency button. If button was placed before the add currency list, then we would have this order. Okay, so now let's use CSS to properly position and style the add currency list. We want to position the add currency list in this space on top of the currencies list as well as the date div. For this purpose, we will absolutely position it relative to the container element. So let's set the position property to relative for the container element. And for starters, let's position it to the bottom left corner. So bottom 0 and left 0. Let's see how it looks. Okay, and let's add a background color. F1, F1, F1. And color 333. And let's set the width to 100% of its parent element of the container. So width 100%. Now we want to move the add currency list 57 pixels from the bottom, since 57 pixels is the height of the add currency button. However, in these 57 pixels we have 3 pixels of border, so if we wanted to place the add currency list on top of this border, we could just move it 54 pixels. And now let's calculate the height. Similarly to the currencies list calculation, we have that height equals 100 viewport height minus 40 pixels, which is the top and bottom margin, minus 100 pixels, which is the height for the header. We don't want to subtract these 40 pixels, which is the date height, since we also want to cover this part. And instead of 58 pixels for the button, let's say 55. This is the 3 border pixels difference. Nice, and let's not forget to set the overflow Y property to auto, so that a scroll bar will appear when list gets longer. Okay, and now let's style list items and their content. I will just paste this part since there is nothing new here. For list items, we set list style to none, some padding and border to the bottom. For the flag image, we set the width and height, again retaining the 3:2 aspect ratio, just a bit smaller, and we also set vertical align to middle. And for the span element, we just set some margin to the left and font weight to bold. If a currency is already displayed, we somehow want to show it to the user so that they don't keep trying to add a currency which already exists. For example, US dollar already exists in the currencies list and therefore it is displayed. So let's add the class disabled for US dollar in add currency list, and let's implement this class. We won't do much here, just set the opacity to 0.5 and cursor to not allowed. Nice, maybe 0.7 instead of 0.5. Okay, now let's set the display property of add currency list to none, and let's try to display it when we hover over the add currency button. For starters, let's just change the button background color on hover to this red color. In order to access and modify the add currency list on button hover, we will use the adjacent sibling selector. Notice that these two elements are siblings and the add currency list immediately follows the add currency button. Okay, let's set the display property to block. Indeed, it works. Very nice. However, let's see if we can come up with some more interesting entrance animation. We could, for example, make the add currency list appear from bottom to top by setting the initial height to 0, and let's also add a transition property, all 0.25 seconds, and ending up with the full height. Nice. However, I would prefer a slide in from the right entrance animation for the add currency list. So let's start with left 105%. In order to hide the list, let's set overflow X to hidden for the container element, and we want to end up with left 0. Okay, I think I like this more. And by the way, I defined left twice here, so let's just do it once. Now, eventually the add currency list will be shown or hidden upon a click event over the add currency button. In order to make it more obvious to the user that they should click again the button to close the add currency list and move back to displayed currencies, we could add a back icon here, an arrow pointing to the left. So back to HTML, let's first include font awesome to our project. If you are interested in a more thorough explanation on how to incorporate Fondosum icons to your projects, feel free to check out a video I've created a while ago on this topic. I'll include a link in the description. Okay, and now let's add the left arrow icon to the Add Currency button. This is the icon. Okay, and now back to CSS in order to properly position and style the left arrow icon. We want to position the icon near to the left edge of the button. For this purpose, we will absolutely position the icon relative to the button, of course. For starters, let's position it to the top left corner. And let's increase font size. Okay, and let's move it from the left edge by 1.25 rem. And from the top by 1 rem. No, that's a bit too much. Let's say 0.6. Nice. Doesn't have to be exactly centered, just roughly. We only want this icon to be visible when the Add Currency list is displayed. So initially, let's set opacity to 0, and let's also set transition all to 0.25 seconds. And on button hover, we want to set the opacity to 1. Nice. And in order to make the animation a bit more interesting, we could make the icon slide a bit from right to left, similarly to the Add Currency list. So we could start from left, let's say 30%, and end up to left 1.25 rem. Looks nice, I think. Now, in order to add or remove these changes when we click on the Add Currency button, we should replace the hover pseudo class with some other class. Let's name it Open, in order to be able to toggle between adding and removing that class when the button is clicked. So when the Add Currency button is clicked, if the Open class is not there, it will be added. Otherwise, it will be removed. This will of course be done with JavaScript in the next part. And let's quickly add a hover effect for list items, changing the background color. Nice. Okay, one more thing. I would prefer to make everything in the container unselectable. We can do this by setting the user select property to none. And finally, let's take care of responsiveness. In smaller screens, I would like the container to occupy the entire width and height. So, if viewport's width is 600 pixels or less, then the following styling applies. I will just paste it. Since there is nothing new here, just resetting font size, width, height, margin, etc. I will of course include a link in the description to the entire project. Let's save and see the result. Okay guys, that's all for now. I hope you like the looks of this little app, and if not, I hope that by now you have the confidence to go ahead and redesign it the way you want. In the next part, we'll use JavaScript to add functionality to our application. Thanks so much for watching. This video took way longer than expected, so if you are still here, huge respect. For any questions, suggestions, or just to say hi, please use the comment section below. Hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe if you want more. Till next time, keep coding, keep improving, and enjoy the journey. Take care. Bye.